Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for this online leadership workshop on leading an effective meeting. This is open and free for any Elon student to watch and maybe get some tips on leading an effective meeting. But you may see in the bottom left-hand corner that this is part of our SOLD, our Student Organization Leader Development Series. So if you are a student organization leader, definitely keep watching to help enhance your meetings with your student organizations. If you are not a student organization, that is totally fine. We are happy to have you here as well. So we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. We're here joining you from the Center for Leadership at Elon. My name is Olivia Brown. I am the Assistant Director of the Center for Leadership, and I'll let Tierza introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tierza Watson. I'm the director of the Center for Leadership. I'm excited you're here for this workshop.
Awesome. So before we jump into leading an effective meeting, we always want to talk about what is the Center for Leadership and why are we here talking to you all today about leadership. So to read our mission statement, it's that Elon students will graduate with a greater leadership self-efficacy. So leadership self-efficacy is the confidence in your ability to do leadership. So we want all Elon students to be able to graduate saying that they can do leadership well. We also want students to graduate with the desire and ability to work collaboratively with diverse communities of people. So we know that when you graduate, you are going to be working with people of all different backgrounds, experiences, ideas, opinions. How do you work together with people who are different than you? We want students to practice that at Elon, but then also be able to do that in the quote unquote real world. And then lastly, we want students to have the confidence and competence to put innovative ideas into action for positive change. So hopefully parts of our workshop today helps you to do these things. So be able to be a little bit more confident in your leadership, be able to work together with others in your organizations, and then also use your organizations to maybe create some positive change moving forward. We also tie all of our leadership workshops to these competencies. So these are the NACE, or the National Association of Colleges and Employers, career readiness competencies. So NACE, this organization, works together with employers who hire graduating college students, college career centers, so kind of like the equivalent of the Student Professional Development Center here at other colleges, and then higher education professionals. So NACE works with all of those entities to say, what competencies are we looking for in graduating college students? And so they identified all of these. So professionalism, communication, critical thinking, teamwork, technology, leadership, which is us, awesome, equity and inclusion, and career and self-development. And as you'll see, not only is leadership directly listed in these competencies, but all of these competencies, except maybe technology, all have to do with leadership, right? You have to work on a team, you have to do critical thinking and communicate, all of these to do effective leadership. So we truly believe that our workshops really align and can help equip you all as Elon students with all of these competencies so that when you graduate, you can say to employers or maybe even internship hiring people that, hey, I have these competencies, I've learned these in college, here's how. And so that's what we like to do with our workshops, is just make sure that you understand these competencies and how you might be learning them. Okay, so to give a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today and what we want you all to get out of this little workshop is, what are the qualities of an effective meeting? So thinking about what goes into an effective meeting. Is your organization having effective meetings right now? And then when you're leading a meeting, or if you need to plan a meeting yourself, what are the key elements of leading that meeting and how can you do that effectively? We have a few tools for you to use moving forward with your student organizations. Then we'll do a quick reflection and wrap up after that. So hopefully by the time you've watched this video and have gone through this workshop, again, you'll understand those key elements and those key things that you need to do to lead an effective meeting. And then hopefully you'll learn some skills and tools overall to contribute to effective meetings in your organizations. Okay, so for our pre-reflection, if you have a piece of paper or maybe just get out your phone, before we jump into this, I want you to pause this video and think about or describe and write down the best or worst meeting that you have ever been in. So this can be a student organization meeting, this can be a work meeting if you have a job on or off campus, or maybe a meeting that you had in high school that either went really, really well or really not well. So thinking about that meeting, think about the components. Why did it go well? Why did it not go well? So think through that, maybe write it down, take a couple seconds, pause this video to think about it, and then I will ask Tierza this question. Okay, so Tierza, describe to us the best or worst meeting you've ever been in and what the components of it were.
I have several experiences that I can talk about. I think one of the worst meetings I attended on a regular basis in college was with an honor society. We met in a 2-story classroom, so it was a huge auditorium. This honor society was trying to incorporate doing community service, but it had like 150 people in it. And so I remember I came every other week for 3 years. Because I wanted the little sticker you got to put on your diploma at the end of this experience, since it was an honor society. I never met anybody. We didn't have committee meetings. We never broke down into smaller groups of people. It was me sitting at the top on the second floor of this auditorium, looking down at all these people that I didn't know. The agenda was organized, but it was like 3 or 4 student officers down on the first floor of this classroom, and they would talk at us. There was no interaction. Um, and I never really met folks. And so I didn't feel super committed to figuring out, well, how can I engage in that community service? I was doing service with other organizations. And so it was just easier to submit those hours than to actually engage with those people. I didn't know them. So there was no element of relationships within that student organization. And being as large as it was, that was a problem. I think some of the best meetings I went to were with Residence Hall Association, so RHA. There was a representative there from every residence hall. The officers board, we always started with some kind of icebreaker questions. You got to know somebody you were sitting next to. Every hall had like 1 minute to give a highlight of what was going on in their building. And then we had new business, old business, like it was very structured, but people kind of knew what to accept. And one of the things I loved at the end of every meeting was a section on other things the officers hadn't thought of. Maybe new issues or concerns came up from members in the group. And so there was a space there to bring up new things that we wanted to talk about. And so I really appreciated that.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, so I want us to also do a brainstorm, so you can pause the video again after you look at this question. So I want you to think about meetings that typically go well. What are the qualities or the component parts of a meeting that seems to flow well most of the time that you're attending? So I want you to pause the video and take some notes, again, on your phone or write them down. See if you can come up with 3 to 5 things that like just make things flow. Okay, and so I am going to ask Olivia if she'll share with us things that she thinks should be included in a meeting on a regular basis that just make it flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like what you said in the last slide about that meeting with your RHA that went really well. I think that a good agenda and a structured agenda is probably the most important thing moving into a meeting, especially if it's one that you send out beforehand so that the members or the people joining the meeting know what you're going to be talking about. So that's the first thing. I also think that meetings go well when people feel like they can really engage. So finding ways to make sure that everyone in the meeting can have their voices be heard, can ask questions, sharing that space so that one person isn't talking throughout the entire meeting, or kind of like you said, like one person isn't just talking at everyone. It is more of a collaboration between the group. And I think those are important. I think showing respect, showing timeliness is important. I've been in some meetings that, especially with my student organizations in my college experience, sometimes they didn't start on time. Sometimes the person who called the meeting would be 10, 15 minutes late and kind of disorganized. So I think just that organization and timeliness is also important. So yeah, I think those are all the ones that I could think of.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so here are some highlights. I think Olivia did a great job giving us those pieces. You want to have a clear purpose. I think one of the things we hate is a meeting about nothing. So if you don't have a purpose or a reason to meet that week, sometimes it's better to just send an email to say, hey folks, we don't have any updates, or if you want to reply to this email thread, or maybe it's like in a group meet, just text everybody what your stuff is, then cancel the meeting. But if you have a purpose, like we need to do updates and we need to plan, 2 events that are coming up, or we have a guest speaker coming and we need to talk through the parts of hosting them, then go ahead and meet. So clear purpose. You do want to manage time. Sometimes it helps people. Sometimes you have members of your student org who talk too long. And so you can say, hey, we're going to talk about this for 10 minutes. Or we're going to talk about this for 5 minutes. So after on the agenda or on the slide, if you're in a classroom meeting, just put this is the 3-minute item, a 5-minute item, a 7-minute item, whatever it is. And that helps things move along. And then engagement, you've got to have a reason for people to connect. And so an icebreaker question at the front end. There was a group at my undergrad who I loved. They did costumes every meeting. And as silly as it sounds, everybody got into it. So it might be pajama day, or it might be crazy hat day, or for Halloween, they came in Halloween costumes. And so that engagement piece doesn't have to be just talking with other people. It can be something fun. Sometimes they had, bring a donation and you had to show what you brought to donate to whatever they were trying to contribute to. So an engagement piece is always nice. Another way to look at engagement in a meeting that goes well, sometimes it's just doing a think, pair, share. And some of you have experienced this in your classes, but it could be that the group wants to brainstorm, we want to come up with 3 programs that we want to host as a club this semester. Okay, we'll start by coming up with 3 things yourself and then turning to a partner sitting next to you, share those 3 ideas. Maybe it's get up out of your chair and talk to 3 different people and keep sharing what were the ideas you came up with. So you're doing some pre-engagement, pre-conversation before then you have the big discussion with the whole group. Because if you have a large organization, that gives people to share their ideas and talk. And again, makes people feel invested when you get to that bigger conversation. You do want to have actionable outcomes. So like, is there a decision we can make today? If not, you want to make sure, again, about that purpose of that meeting. You do want to be respectful. I love that Olivia noted that if a debate gets heated about something, think through in advance, how can I take the temperature down? Or can I say, hey, folks, it sounds like we're really passionate about this. Let's pause this and bring it up at the next meeting. And if you would like to meet with me separately, let's talk individually, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it again. You have to share space. And so sometimes as officers, the president doesn't need to lead the whole meeting, right? Can every officer have a speaking point? Can every committee chair have an opportunity at some point, maybe every month, to be up front and be that person who is being allowed to communicate? And then lastly, we want student organization meetings to be positive and comfortable. We want group project meetings to be positive and comfortable. We know that you experience leadership a lot in academic group projects. And so if things take a negative turn, again, take a deep breath and say, hey, can we come back to this topic after everybody has a chance to reflect and cool off? People don't come back to organization meetings when it's too negative or there's too much strife, right? So we want to have good energy.
Absolutely.
All right, we have a fabulous video for you on what happens when you have a meeting and there's no agenda. Olivia.
Said, I've never seen somebody fit so many marshmallows in their mouth. And I said, you should see what I can do with almonds. All right, people, it's time to kick off our kickoff meeting. Okay, what you got for me, people? Hit me with your best shot. You, me, what you got?
Is there something specific you wanted updates on?
The Johnson account.
We don't have a client by that name.
Jackson. It was Jackson.
Nope.
It was presidential. It was Hancock, Hamilton, Bartlett. It was Bartlett.
That was the president in the show West Wing. Are you talking about the Washington account?
Boom! Nailed it. All right, give me the deets.
Their contract expired 3 months ago and they decided not to renew it.
Yikes. Okay. Well, that's okay. We'll pivot. Deidre, Burbs, what do you got?
Okay, so that was an interesting video. Clearly that was a skit and it was a work meeting, but I think there's a lot of similarities, especially with meetings with group projects, with maybe your exec board in a student organization. So let's talk about it and what maybe went wrong with this meeting. So Tirza, what observations did you make about the meeting, and why do you think this meeting was a fail?
Well, I definitely think it was very clear at the beginning when the meeting leader started and he said, "Give me what you got." And nobody was paying attention. And part of that was they didn't know that they had to make reports because the young woman said, "Is there something specifically you'd like an update on?" So, the meeting having no agenda, they didn't know I have to bring updates for my top 3 clients or specific clients. And so it's a fail because they just didn't know what they were supposed to provide. I also think it was a fail that the meeting leader didn't know what they were asking for, right? Didn't even know the name of the
Mhm.
client. So if you've got 3 programs that your club's planning and you don't specifically say, "Hey, we're going to talk about the Halloween event or we're going to talk about our community service event," you can't prepare people, and you as the leader should know what you're asking about.
Mhm. Absolutely. So if you were going to lead a meeting like this, I'm sure you would do a lot differently. So what would you do differently?
Yeah, so even when I think about the meetings that I run now in committees and staff teams, we know that we're going to do what's our upcoming programs or events. We're going to talk about some standing items. And so I actually list those on the agenda. Like every week, we're going to do an update on these like 4 or 5 things. So people responsible for them know that that's the time for them to share what's going on, ask for support, maybe ask for delegation tasks. Or it could just be like, here's our success. I also always include in that agenda a plus minus delta from anything that we just completed as a group or organization. What went well with it? What didn't go well? And if we were to do it again, what would we change the next time? And then we take notes on the agenda. So our agenda functionally becomes our minutes as well. And then there's always an other section at the bottom. Again, as I mentioned, in that RHA example, I took from that, and now as a professional staff member, I always add another section. What have I forgotten? What would you like to add? What's something that you wanted to talk about and you forgot to let me know in advance so I could put it on the agenda? I still want to create that space in the other section.
Love that. I think if this guy formatted his meetings very similarly, this video would go a lot different and be a lot more
I
productive.
I agree.
Awesome. So now we're going to go into talking about the key elements of leading an effective meeting. So we talked a little bit about what goes into an effective meeting, what makes meetings sometimes not so effective, but we're going to go through step by step what you should do before, during, and after your meetings to make sure that they can be effective.
All right, so let's talk about prior to the meeting, before it even happens. You need to do a little bit of planning as the leader. So number 1, as we've already talked about, you need to have a purpose. What are we trying to accomplish at this meeting? And then create an agenda, even if it's just, again, an email, it could be a text message, a group me message, whatever format you're using. And just say, "Hey, we're going to talk about these 4 things at the meeting. Wanted to give you the opportunity to be prepared and or think about what your opinion is on this topic before we come together." And then you want to invite the right people, right? So sometimes it's just our members. Sometimes it should just be your executive board. Other times it should be that we're inviting maybe a faculty or a staff member who knows more about this topic. So make sure you get the right people there to advise you. And then you do want to assign roles. So sometimes you don't formally have a secretary for your organization or for your committee, but you might say, when you send out the agenda, "Hey, I need, one person to be the note taker. We're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes on these 3 topics. I need somebody who's willing to be our timekeeper." And then the facilitator. The facilitator doesn't always have to be, again, the president of the group or the chair of the committee. If you have an executive board meeting ahead of time, you certainly could appoint people or ask people to volunteer to take the lead at different meetings and rotate that role, because in that you're developing other leaders and their confidence in leading a meeting as well. All right, so then a meeting agenda example. So you want to do a welcome to everybody. So there needs to be a formal start. You saw that the guy in our video was being silly and telling a joke to somebody else at the table. But if you kind of straighten up and go, "Okay, folks, we're going to start in a couple minutes, visit with each other," or it's going to be a formal icebreaker. It could be just a question of the week. We've done that before. where it's like, we have a deck of cards. We actually have those in our office if you want to come and borrow them. But we just pulled a question, and we did that for like the first 6 weeks when we had new members on our team, just to get to know each other. So some kind of icebreaker would also be taking attendance. A reminder of what we're trying to accomplish today, how much time we're going to be together. Hey, folks, this is a 30-minute meeting. We've got these 3 items to go through. Do a quick review of what happened last week, or refer to your minutes if people weren't there and want to know what happened. Then announce anything coming up. Here's our discussion topics, actually discuss those. And then wrap up with what are our action items and who's responsible to take care of each action. And we'll come back and report at our next meeting, and just note their names down in your minutes. And then remind people when you're going to meet again.
Great. Okay, so now that you've had time to prepare for your meeting, you've invited the right people, you've built a great agenda. Now we're talking about what you're actually going to do during the meeting. So I think Tierza talked a little bit about like starting on time. Maybe if people are chatting before visiting with each other, right before the meeting starts, that is totally fine. But make sure that when you have that scheduled start time, try to start as on time as possible. And again, do that welcome, do that, hey, okay, we're going to get started right now. Let's dive in, so that everybody knows that, okay, it's time to get focused and start talking about the agenda. Another thing that you can do, and this is something that you can maybe establish at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the year, is just some ground rules for your meetings. So making sure that, again, people are being respectful, not talking over each other, reminding everyone that it's a shared space where people will be expected and hopefully willing to engage in each meeting. So saying maybe at the beginning of the year, hey, just so you know, these are how our meetings are going to flow. We want to hear feedback from you. We want to make sure that everybody gets space to talk. We want to make sure that nobody's talking over each other or being disrespectful, and kind of just set those ground rules. Put those in your meeting notes as well, so then you can refer back to them if somebody isn't maybe following the rules later on in the semester or in the year. But that's super important to just set that groundwork and set those expectations early so folks know how the meetings are going to go. Going off of that, definitely encouraging inclusive participation. I know we've mentioned it a few times already, but making sure that multiple people can have the chance to stand up and talk in front of all of the general members, or lead a meeting with just the exec team, so that everybody is getting experience and growing confidence in leading meetings. Because when just the president is leading every single meeting, only one voice is being heard, and then that also hinders the development of other people who might also need some meeting experience and facilitating experience. So just continue to think about during your meetings, how can you make sure as much participation happens as possible? I think having that other section at the end of the meetings that Tierza mentioned is a really great way to just say, hey, does anybody else have ideas or questions? What else have we missed? Make sure you leave an extra, 5 to 10 minutes at the end of your meetings for this. I remember in one of my undergraduate organizations, we had something called Pass the Mic, where anybody could just stand up at the end of the meeting, get the microphone, and announce anything or ask any question. So it could be something like, hey, I know this isn't the same student organization, but my sorority is having a fundraiser after this. If anybody wants to come with me, let's go, right? So also giving time for people to share maybe things even outside of the organization. And then managing time. Like I just said, if you're going to have that time for the very end for people to give other announcements or ask questions or things like that, lay that out on your agenda. So say, okay, we're going to have 5 minutes of welcome, 10 minutes of discussion on these items, and then 10 minutes at the end for just open forum, open discussion. And then now that you've set those times in your agenda, make sure you're staying on track. So Tierza mentioned assigning somebody to be that timekeeper and saying, hey, maybe we need to pin this conversation and talk about it again next week because we're running out of time on that section, or come back to it at the end of the meeting if we still have time. So making sure that you're staying on time and being respectful of everyone's time in the group. And then lastly, making sure you're very clear on decisions and assigning tasks. So making sure that that's not only in your agenda, but you're saying that out loud to the group of, okay, so during this meeting, we decided on A, B, and C. Joe, Jane, and whoever else is going to do these tasks. So everybody in the group is kind of understanding, and you have like a nice little recap of the meeting. And so we've mentioned a few times making sure that people are engaged in the meeting. And I think there's a lot of different ways to help your members, especially if it's like a more general member meeting and maybe there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of great ways to get people engaged, so they're not just sitting there listening to somebody talk and then leaving. So the first thing I think is a great idea is just having a check-in question at the beginning of every meeting. So this can be a longer answer. Maybe if you have a really big group, you can just have everybody turn to a person next to them, encourage them to talk to somebody maybe they haven't met before yet in the group, and just give a fun icebreaker question. There are so many icebreaker questions out there. Or if you're looking for ideas, as Tierza mentioned, we have a lot of icebreaker questions. We have icebreaker question cards if you want to ever come borrow them from our office. So I think icebreaker questions are great. If you're in a larger organization and you want everybody to be able to speak, or maybe you take attendance at your organizations. I was in an organization where we just had a one-word answer. So the question would be, I don't know, what's your favorite color? And so we would go down the list of attendance, and every single person would say, like they would call out their name, you'd say present, my favorite color is turquoise. And everybody got a chance to speak, and everybody knew who else was in the room as well. So that was always good. Think, pair, share. Tierza mentioned that earlier. So sitting down with people, this is kind of similar. It's just turn to the person next to you, share your ideas, check in with the person next to you, ask them how they're doing. Or if you're doing idea generation, come up with 3 ideas, talk to the person next to you, and then have some people share out with the entire group. Red, yellow, green progress check. This might be more for if you're assigning tasks to people and you want to have them each check in on what tasks they're doing, or maybe give them space to ask for help or say, hey, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do next. Have members or your exec team label all of their tasks by color. So green is just on track, so they can either yell out green or write it down in the meeting notes. Yellow is maybe stalled, maybe you're a little bit behind schedule, or maybe you have multiple ideas on where to go next and you need to pick one. Then red is you're stuck, you've been completely roadblocked, you're behind, you need help. So this is a great, easy way for everybody to kind of be able to say where they're at with their tasks. The other one that I really like is the brainstorm wall. So if you have dry erase boards in the room you're meeting in, maybe you want to get some Post-its, some pens, or if you're doing, I don't know, a Zoom meeting, or everybody has their laptops out at your meetings, you can create a Google Doc for everyone to share. And this is a great, easy way to get everybody generating ideas, sharing them out, putting them up on boards. And so these can be anything between what ideas do we have for events. We've led SWOT analyses for groups. So it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Our strategic planning workshops that we have each semester, we talk more deeply about that, but those are great ways to get feedback on your organization. And you can use Post-its and put, strengths up on one wall, weaknesses up on one wall, opportunities on one wall, and threats on one wall. Have everybody write out what they think your organization's opportunities are, what they think your threats are, or weaknesses, and that. And every person in your organization could write those out and put those up around the room. So brainstorming, we love a good Post-it wall, or again, if you don't have those materials, even just a shared Google Doc where everyone can take time and type things out, the easy, free way to do that as well. And then lastly, rosebud thorn. So this is kind of similar to that, things that you might want to change, things that you might do differently, or things that you might just stop doing as an organization. This is kind of another feedback mechanism for maybe after an event or program that you've done, maybe after the entire year, you sit down as a group and go around the room. So saying rosebud thorn, rose is a highlight. So something that went really well, or something that you really enjoyed out of the organization. Thorn was a challenge, or maybe something that you might not do again because it just didn't work out. And then bud is an opportunity or something that you could do next time or maybe next year.
Okay, so what do you do after the meeting? Well, there's lots of things you can do. One, you want to take minutes during the meeting. And then I really want to suggest to you that you either post them in your Teams account, and we'll talk more about using Microsoft's Teams as a student organization. In those minutes, though, you want to highlight who's responsible for what. If there's an agenda item that you know you're going to talk about at the next meeting, noting that. But here's something I want you to think about. I want you to level up your organization. It's not just keeping minutes, so there's a record somewhere, but how about emailing them out to the entire chapter or organization? People who are absent then have the ability to read what happened at the meeting that I missed. For some of you, you have advisors that are there at your meetings every week, but that isn't as common as I would love. And so we do have some advisors that are challenged coming back to campus for late night meetings. Email them to your advisor and say, hey, here's what happened at our meeting last week. We have a question where we could use your advice, because that's their role. But if nothing else, letting them know as your advisor what you guys talked about that week. You want to follow up on assignments and give updates. And so you can do that. We have lots of tools, and Olivia's going to talk about this later in this workshop, but there are ways to follow up with who's assigned to what, and there's tools electronically you can use, and then give updates. And there's a place to put notes with assignments. And then lastly, you as the meeting leader or facilitator, we want you to reflect on what worked and what didn't work. And so then you can be thinking ahead, what do I want to change for the next meeting? So it's constant growth. No meeting is perfect. But as long as you're reflecting on the pros and the cons and what I want to change, you're going to get better and better at leading a meeting.
Absolutely. So speaking of those tools, we have laid out a list of tools that we think would be really helpful for you as meeting planners, as student organization leaders, to make sure that you can stay organized and do all of those action items that we just gave you on before, during, and after your meetings. So the first thing that we suggest is Microsoft Outlook. So that's that emailing platform through Microsoft, or Gmail. I think it's important to just choose one communication source, especially if you're going to be sending out maybe calendar invites or a weekly email. Just choose one source that you're going to email from. So maybe you get everybody's Elon email and say, okay, all of our organization's communications are going to come to your Elon email. So make sure you check that instead of going between, oh, it's on your Gmail, oh, it's on your Outlook, right? Just choose one and go with that. The next thing we would suggest is having a GroupMe or a text group chat with your entire organization. This can be a way to just send really quick reminders saying, hey, we have a meeting tomorrow. It's always good just to give that reminder so people know what's coming up. And then in those shorter messages or quicker messages, you can say, please refer to your Elon email for the agenda of the meeting. Or if you have any questions, feel free to message me. So GroupMe is a great way to get a larger group all together and hopefully get people to connect as well. The other thing that we suggest, and we've already mentioned it, is Microsoft Teams. So this is an online app through Microsoft where you can share files, you can message each other, so you could even make a Teams chat with your organization. And it's a great way to keep documents, and it's all online, so you don't have to worry about, things being lost, or, maybe only one person has something on their computer. If they upload it to Teams, everybody can have access to it. Tierza, did you have something to add on this one?
I do. I really want to strongly encourage Elon University student organizations to use Teams instead of Google. Now, I love Google. I have Gmail as my private email. But when you use a Google address, even if it's your university address and you're the owner of a document, let's say you're using Google Drive for all your club's documents, when that student leaves, you no longer as an organization have access to that drive because it's attached to their email individually. If you use Teams, when you create your team, you can make every officer and your advisor an owner of that account. As positions switch, you just add people in, you have all the members, but you don't lose access to all the materials that you have. Could be documents about how you do different events, could be your constitution and bylaws, the latest copies, all your meeting minutes, etc. So we really want to push that Microsoft Teams is the way to go for student org record keeping and interactive space.
Absolutely. And then Microsoft Planner, which can actually be used within Teams or by itself. So that's another Microsoft app. It is a way for you to keep track of task assignments and updates. So this is actually a project management app, but it's a great way to, maybe you have an event coming up and you need to assign 5 different tasks to 3 different people, right? You can put it all in the planner. You can put deadlines for each task. You can assign a person to each task. You can assign multiple people to one task. And then those folks who are assigned can actually put comments and updates on each individual task. So this is a really great way if you're planning something more large scale, or you have something like a year-long initiative or program that you're doing. This is a great way to keep track and stay organized on that. So it's not just people keeping their updates and their tasks in their head, right? It is a way for everybody to kind of see what everybody's working on and stay updated and organized. And then also ChatGPT is actually a really great way to help organize maybe your agenda, come up with icebreaker questions. If you need to maybe think of team builders for your student organization, ChatGPT is a great way to go. Maybe put in, hey, I need to talk about these 5 things in a hour-long meeting. How would you organize this? And ChatGPT will give you an agenda for your meeting, which is great. Or, hey, I need 5 icebreaker questions for my next 5 meetings. They will give you hundreds of icebreaker questions on there. So definitely would utilize ChatGPT if you don't already. And then When to Meet or Doodle, these are both free scheduling apps or free scheduling websites, where if you're looking for a meeting time, maybe with just your exec team, or maybe you've split your organization up into committees, and now you as a committee chair need to find a time to meet with just your committee. Sending a When to Meet or a Doodle is a great way to just see where everyone is available, instead of maybe going back and forth over text of, oh, I have class this day, oh, I have something this day. When to Meet and Doodle is a great way to just say, hey, just put up when you're available. It shows you the time that's common for everyone. Then that's when you set your meeting time. And then lastly, Microsoft Forms. So this is kind of similar to what Tierza said with versus Google. Microsoft Forms, if you upload it to your Teams or you put it on your organization's team page, that can be viewable to everyone. So you can do anything from event signups. So maybe you have an event where people need to work shifts, having signups for that. Maybe you just want to get feedback from your members, and you can get anonymous feedback as well. That can be a great way. Maybe you want to do a poll within a meeting. This can be an easy, free way to have a poll set up during your meeting. So definitely check those out. As you might have noticed, most of these are Microsoft apps, and we really wanted to highlight these because Elon students have access to Microsoft Suite for completely free. So you can use all of these apps. There's more apps out there as well, like Notes and different things. So definitely check out the Microsoft Suite if you haven't already as Elon students. And I think it's also important to start using these suites because these are widely used by employers. We have found more and more that employers and companies, especially within education, if that's something you're interested in, are using Microsoft instead of Gmail. And so knowing that, you're going to maybe need to know Teams to get a job or get an internship. You're going to need to know how to use Outlook or Planner or things like that. So not only is it beneficial and a resource that you should utilize for your organization, but it's also a resource that we think you should utilize for your own professional development. So definitely take a picture of this, write these down, and use as many tools and resources that you can to help, again, organize your organization and communicate effectively with your members.
Okay, so here's our wrap up. We want you to really start thinking about what tools or tips am I going to use moving forward to facilitate more effective meetings. So maybe pause the video and take some notes for yourself. This applies not just to student organizations. It could be, hey, I'm in a group project team in a class and it's meeting weekly for a whole semester, right? You can use some of these tips and tricks for your project teams as well. Some of you are student leaders within student staff positions, or you could be at a business out in the town where you're living and you're a team leader, right? You can use all of these for staff meetings. So think about what can I use tips and tricks wise. And then when you do specifically think about a student organization, we have 3 great reflection questions for you to really chew on. So currently, how effective are my meetings now, right now? So give yourself a grade, or maybe it's the red, yellow, green. And what can my organization do to have better meetings? And I challenge you to actually ask people in the group. So you can certainly do, again, if you use that Microsoft form, you can get a QR code once you create a form. It can be anonymous. And you can ask people just to do that. You can pass out, again, Post-it notes, index cards, scraps of paper, and ask people to respond anonymously at the end of a meeting about what can we do to have better meetings. Second question, how can I encourage more engagement and participation? Thinking through some of those tips and tricks we've told you, but again, work with your executive board and ask where could we take 10 minutes for members to just get to know each other or to talk about a concept related to the theme of our student organization. And then lastly, what kind of communications habits can you and other members improve on to have effective meetings? Sometimes we realize that we've got someone who talks too long, or maybe we really want to draw out a member that has really great ideas but doesn't speak up a lot. How can I rearrange how I facilitate this meeting to give everyone voice, right? So thinking through that. And again, if you need assistance with any of these, come and talk to us in the Center for Leadership. We are happy to do leadership coaching and help you work through these issues so you can have better meetings.
Absolutely. All right. So that was all we had for you today, but I always want to give a shameless plug for the Center for Leadership. As Tierza mentioned, we are here as a resource for you. So if you need any help with, maybe you've watched this video and you want a little bit more help in coaching with leading your meetings, or there's a specific leadership issue that you want to work through, we are here to help you with that. So you're always welcome to come visit our office. We're in upstairs Mosley 230, so right up the stairs as you walk out from the mailroom. If you want to just send us an email to set up a meeting, you can email us or ask us questions at lead@elon.edu. You can also visit our website to see all of our different resources and offerings, which I'll talk about a couple of them in a second. That's elon.edu/lead. If you want to follow us on Instagram, that's how you can stay up to date with our upcoming events. We have a lot of in-person workshops as well. We have free giveaways. We give books away. Things like that each semester. So definitely follow us on Instagram to stay up to date with all of our events and giveaways and things. And then to talk a little bit about our programming. So leadership workshops, this is an online virtual leadership workshop, but again, we have in-person leadership workshops on a variety of different topics. Phoenix Leaders, that is a picture of our cohort right there. But Phoenix Leaders is actually primarily for first-year students. So if you're a first-year student and you want to dive more into leadership in a cohorted experience and a more in-depth experience, definitely check out Phoenix Leaders. The Leadership ELR, if you are watching this as a student organization leader, you might actually be eligible to get the Leadership ELR through your organization's position. So if you're interested in getting that graduation requirement through being a student organization leader, definitely reach out to us, visit our website. We have all of the requirements on what you need for the Leadership ELR. So check that out because you might be eligible watching this. So yeah, definitely visit our office. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching today and have a great day.